I hid behind the bar down below, and I did that line.
Wasn't very nice of you to dump me in the sewer like that, was it, Sarah? You said the words. You said the magic words. Lama, lama, loma, lama, ding dong.
Whatever it was.
Now you'll be my slave.
No, I won't be your slave.
Your parents don't even like you. Don't you get it yet?
And she was just freaking. She's like, "Where's that coming from?" And I stood up. And she went, "Don't ever do that." It just freaked her out.
So I would like to welcome back to the stage Mr. Cal Dodd.
Oh, jeez. I didn't even sat down. I spilt my water all over the table.
It's perfect. Nobody's going to know.
That's what you're supposed to applaud for. Well, I got to eat this thing again.
All right.
Hi.
So just to do a little bit of...
I said hi. Bub.
So to do a little bit of a previously on X-Men bit here, just kind of recap a little bit. Yesterday we talked about how you got involved with X-Men the animated series and X-Men 97 getting brought back for that, and having to do the audition to be yourself for X-Men 97. What's it like, kind of, you worked on the show for, 5 years? The original?
Yeah.
What's it like having 5 years of your life kind of turn into this sort of a legacy?
Kind of what?
Have it turn into a legacy, kind of have it outgrow the 5 years.
Well, we had no idea when we started. We didn't have any idea. Excuse me. After the second year, we didn't know every year whether we were going to be renewed or not. But all the while, they were receiving tons and tons of mail at Fox Kids and the producers' offices, etc. But they didn't let us know because they probably figured that we would want more money or something. So they didn't let us know that it was as popular as it was.
So they downplayed it for you.
Yeah.
Just kept it on the down low.
After 3 years, we knew this is a monster.
Yeah.
And it was running rampant. And it was just amazing that we were all a part of it and having as much fun as we were having doing it, especially being Wolverine with all the funny lines. He has the good lines in the show.
Lines. Best lines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cyclops just sits and reads his boring lines and stuff, but Wolverine has funny lines.
Cyclops, he's a straight man. You gotta have
he's
straight
very
man.
Sarcastic and very, he doesn't even know half the time that he's being funny.
Right.
Wolverine.
So it was kind of a year by year. You kind of started to piece it together. But once you wrapped it up, did you expect it to be kind of this thing that kept going? Even after the show ended. Yeah,
and it was kind of it was a shock when they said that's it. They're not doing any more episodes. No other season. We were all like, why? It's hugely popular. And it was sort of an unwritten rule back then with any cartoon that you did, or in our case it's an animated series. After 5 years, it was just an unwritten rule. 5 years, that's it. That we'll go on to some new project or something.
Right, because they hit their syndication.
No matter how popular it was, they just pulled the plug.
Yeah, they syndicated to the end of time after that. Yeah. Did you know about the merchandising side of it while it was going on? What was it like to, go into a store and see?
I wasn't aware. Well, because I did a lot of voiceovers for the toys. There was a big Wolverine robot, sort of looking, not doll, but Wolverine.
It's called an action figure.
That thing, an action figure that you would run up and you could push the button on his belly, and he would say stuff like, "Back off, bub," or "I go where I want to go," and etc. And then, and my nieces and nephews, who were like 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, just couldn't believe it because they would press it because they knew they had seen the cartoon, a bit of it, the animated series, and they would push the button and then they would look at me because they couldn't figure out why it was, how did you get in there? How did you get in that doll?
How did they fit you in there?
I go, Cal, how do you get in voice in there? It was so cool. And especially if you have a TV show and you're on TV and you're sitting with them, they're back and forth from the TV because they don't understand how you can, How are you here and you're there? Yeah.
So like with the that kind of stuff, I mean, did you record the toy dialogue like at a separate time, or did they kind of roll that in with when you were doing like the lines for like the toys and stuff? Did they record that at a separate time, or was that like kind of rolled in with the show?
No, it wasn't anything to do with the show.
So it was totally separate? Yeah. So they would, like, I guess, take you into a different studio when...
Just they would have a list of the different lines to say for the thing, and I just read them off and be done like that.
Like that, huh?
Yeah.
Quick money. So, yeah, I mean, so what was it like kind of finding out that this has such a legacy that it's returning, you know, that it's come back around, that they want to do another show? What was it like kind of finding that out?
Disney Plus, you mean?
Yeah, the whole Disney Plus and all that.
Well, we toured. We were doing Comic-Cons like this and doing panels. And we were telling the kids, the audience, well, they weren't kids because, you know, they had kids that they were introducing to our show. The kids that were watching us were no longer kids. Anyway, we told them they should keep. They couldn't understand why Disney weren't rebooting X-Men. I think they were doing Spider-Man or something. They just said, no, what are you doing? Like, we want X-Men.
Right.
Yeah. And anyway, so after 2 years of pestering Disney, the Disney just said, there's got to be something to this because all these people are writing it, you know. So they just pulled the plug and said, yep. Not pulled the plug, plugged the plug in.
Plug said, back in.
We're doing this. We're gonna do it. And it was like, wow, thank you. She was just great. Back to see him, this guy again.
Yeah. All right.
In the same studio as 30 years ago.
30 years prior.
Yeah.
Have they at least painted the walls or something, make it look a little different?
And a new engineer. The other one was on crutches and wheelchairs and stuff. He's pretty old, unlike us.
Right,
of course, Wolverine's only 180 now, I think, something like that.
Something they change it up and down all the time. Do you have a question?
This bugs me. This table was doing this yesterday too.
Yeah.
No, that's just I get that. You know.
It's gotten worse.
You know. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, that's much better.
Do you have a question?
I do. Thanks for being here. So my question is very general about voice acting. We're accustomed to seeing the talent that appears on the show, and they always talk about the camaraderie that they had with their entire cast, and they have jokes and joke around, they become really good friends. And with voice acting, I mean, you see these movies where they're doing radio shows. You've got a whole ensemble doing a radio show, and nobody can see them. But my concept of voice acting now is you're just sitting like in a studio by yourself or a booth doing the thing. And that camaraderie, that team building doesn't really exist. Can you talk about that through your career and how is it a very isolated industry, or do you get that team camaraderie on a show that you've been working on for several years?
The first year that we did the show, we all worked together. Everyone was in the studio at the same time. And it was my first experience doing any kind of voiceover work. I had done one Chrysler commercial or so as a voiceover because I was a singer. That's all. I was doing jingles and you know, for 25 years. I was just singing. And like the guy in Canada, either lead, either the lead vocal on a commercial for Pepsi, Budweiser, Wonder Bra, I mean, all of that stuff, you know, from bras to beer, and I did that. And they would fly us to different cities. I did Wonder Bra in Montreal, in Canada, and Molson X in Chicago. They flew me there to just to do background on a spot. But, you know, I loved that because that was my life. Anyway, I just loved singing. And I'd done albums, and I toured with Joe Cocker early before all this stuff, and so music was a huge part of my life, and I didn't have anything to do with voiceover people. They would come in after we sang, so we would sing for like an hour, and that was a great camaraderie because, you know, there'd be 3 guys, 3 girls. We were like the sort of group for the entire city, and then I would do the lead vocal, and then in would walk the voiceover guy, and it was for Molson X, this commercial, And I remember we sang for an hour and about 50, an hour 20, an hour and a half, doing vocals and the backgrounds, and if there was a lead spot, sing the lead spot. So it was a lot of work, and doing the harmonies and stuff. And so an hour and a half, we're done. So we're signing a contract, and in walks Mr. Voiceover Dude. And there's a line in voiceover. He's a beer voice, or he's the truck, because I'm now known as for any trucks, guts, glory, ram, that kind of stuff. I'm known as the truck voice, the gravelly thing. But not at this point. So this guest, and he was a friend of mine, walked in to do his voiceover, and he walked up to the microphone, and this is all he said. And the line was Molson X Great Ale. And he just, after we'd been singing for an hour and a half, he just went, Molson X Great Ale. And they said, perfect. He was finished, and he signed the contract, got paid twice what we got paid, because voiceovers do, because they have an agent. I didn't have, singers don't have agents, in the jingle scene. It's just your own guy, and they know who you are by word of mouth. And but agents have to give 15% to their talent have to give 15% to their agents. So hence they would get at least scale and a half, but these guys were getting double to triple because they were good. And I just went, I'm in the wrong part of this business. I mean, 10 minutes, he was done. And for a third of what he made, we were there for an hour and a half. Meanwhile, we're doing a whole bunch more of that, like 2 times a day, every day of the week. He does that maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. So I guess it probably all evened out. But, so back to your question, I kind of ramble. And so the first 5 episodes, 5 or 6, we went in as a group. And the reason I started that story is because I was new to all of that. No, they knew who I was because I'd had a TV show that was syndicated worldwide, and it was all singing and circus acts called Circus, the show. And so they knew of me, but I'd never worked with them or seen them. Like I said, I would see them if they were coming in to do a voiceover, but very rarely. And so they were all new to me. So we're in a semicircle, and there'd be myself and Norm Spencer, who was Cyclops, and Beast, and Gene, and Jubilee, and Gambit. And I just got to know them very quickly. And Norm, this is Norm who played Gambit. This was his introduction to Norm Spencer, who is Cyclops, because he had a great sense of humor. So, and the guys are nervous because they'd never done the voice before, and we're all in the studio doing it for the first time. And Gambit says whatever line he says, and Norm Spencer turned to him and just said, "Is that the way you're going to do it?" And Gambit just went, "Yes." And now he's shaking. Like, what do you mean? Oh, I don't know. I'd expected something different. That's the way you're going to do it. It was just ridiculous. And he was just joking. And he said, I'm kidding. But I was like, holy shit. What you going to do when I open my yap? And so we just got to know each other. And Norm and I got on terrifically, but we're always at each other. For instance, I told this the other day, too. You told the story about, we're doing an episode, and there's an episode where Wolverine's in playing pool in a joint, and he doesn't have this stuff on. He's got like his civvies. And he looks up at the TV set, and there's like Friends of Humanity marching, going, "Down with mutants, no more mutants." And Wolverine, forgetting that these guys, there's 3 other tough-looking guys, bikers, hanging around. One of them's playing with him, and the other are just standing and watching him because he's got the big mutton chop. And he just looks up at the screen and says, "Shut that monkey off. Just shut the TV off, Shut that noise off." And the guy says, one of the guys says, What do you like? Are you a mutant lover? And all hell breaks loose after that. But so they needed one of the other guys who starts questioning Wolverine about, like, get him or whatever. They said, "Does anyone do a Jack Nicholson?" And Norm's, of course, right beside me, he puts his hand up and says, "I'd like to try that." In his Ted Knight voice, "I'd like to try that, Mary." And so they said, "Go ahead." And I'm standing beside him, and I'm still tentative because I don't know. But I do a great Jack Nicholson. And I had a lot of voices in my head and stuff that hadn't come out, hadn't had an opportunity. And so he finishes, And I just looked at him, and I put my hand up, and they said, "Oh, would you like to try?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I did whatever line I was doing. No, to kill the bug up your ass, like to do a Jack line with Aurora. Terms of endearment, I think that was when Aurora says. She comes back from the table, and Jack's sitting at the table, with her, and he's looking at two young chicks at the next table, and she catches him and says, "I think that's disgusting." And he said, "What's the problem?" And she says, I'm your date, you're looking at that next table and flirting with him. And he just turns away Jack, and he comes back and says, "Aurora, I think we're going to have to get drunk." She said, "Why, to break the ice?" And he said, "Oh, no. To kill the bug up your ass." Anyway, I did that line, and Norm just turns to me and says, "Oh, piss off." And then from then on, it was. But that's the kind of camaraderie and those kind of things, and making up and reading the line, not reading the line you're supposed to read. Once you get comfortable with the producers and stuff, whatever, you could just make fun of the lines and swear and do that stuff, and it was hilarious. But that stopped after 5 or 6 episodes. And we just, one at a time, for the rest of it. The next 4.5 years. You just go in and read the whole script, they send it to you, and highlight your own lines and do it. Well, of course you'd have to read the whole script so you know what you're doing and what's happening. But yeah, just all by yourself, then you'd leave, and then Norm would come in, whatever, and do his lines like that. And that's what we're doing with Disney too. With the new stuff, which apparently premieres March 24th.
Which do you prefer?
Oh, yeah. It just saves a lot more. It's a lot quicker. Yeah, and it's much easier for the engineer because everyone was spilling into the next guy's mic, and the engineer was pulling mics down and stuff, and it was just he couldn't keep up. He just said, "Okay, this is not working." So we just went one at a time. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
You're a singer. What style of music do you like singing the most?
I do any kind of genre of music. I love each in its own right. I love Ray Charles. I love Tony Bennett. Frank Sinatra, I have to like him because I'm singing with a big 18-piece orchestra now, doing all Frank stuff. But Frank vocally didn't demand anything. He never goes up and down like Tony Bennett and Ray Charles. I just love because I love gravel. And Tom Waits. I just posted a Tom Waits tune. It's called Ruby's Arms, and it's just. Tom Waits is another. He's much like Wolverine in all his songs. And of course, Beatles. When the Beatles hit, just everyone went maniacal. And I was brought up singing Irish songs because we came from Ireland, and the whole family would sing and tour to different events, singing Irish songs. Mom would play the piano, and the four little brats would sing. And I'll never forget getting up in the middle of the night. They would wake me up at midnight. They were having a party downstairs. Cal, come on down. Cal, come on down. Oh, okay. And I would stand there and sing in my pajamas for these people that were having their victuals and drinks at midnight. But I loved it, sing it. So any music whatsoever. And as you know, because the Pavarotti stuff, I love opera, but R&B and Billy Joel stuff, I love any of that stuff. And my brother sang with backups on Billy Joel stuff as well, so he knows all that stuff. He was with Meatloaf and all that. It's another story. I'm sick of talking of him.
Any other questions?
I think another one.
Okay.
So, again, a lot of live talent. They talk. Woo! Hey.
Well, thank you. Thanks, son.
They talk about how they never want to watch themselves perform. They don't watch the TV shows that they're on or whatever because they're so super hypercritical of themselves. Mm-hmm. Do you find the same thing
with
thing with doing voiceover?
And what about like the commercials and like when you started with the singing and stuff like that? Would you hear that and go, "Oh my gosh," or what was that like?
Oh yeah, no, of course. I'm very critical of myself. Always have been. Perfectionist for sure when it comes to singing, and everything, like including Wolverine. With the TV show, we were doing big production numbers. We had 6 dancers. And, big production numbers, not unlike Billy Joel stuff and whatever. I'm Moving Out, that kind of song, because, for a production number on a TV show. The dancers would all go to the monitor after a take. It's because the choreographer was there. Because there's 6 dancers, myself and the girl, the female star of the show as well. And they would all go and gather around the TV monitor to watch, mainly for the dancers. And to make sure that none of the dancers screwed up. And if they did, we have to do that again. The whole thing, we'll have to do it over again, which was hard on the stars of the show, because we got to sing it again. But I couldn't go and stand there and watch it, because I couldn't stand watching myself on TV. I didn't like to see it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've always been like that.
So does that prohibit you from being a fan of something that you do? Like, so X-Men, if you're not wanting to listen to it, if you're not willing to watch it because you're hearing it, does that now I can't really watch that show. I can't become a fan of the show because you're not watching the show.
What?
That you're living the show, but you're not watching the show. How does that work out?
Are you talking about for X-Men?
Well, yeah, or something like
an
that.
Animated thing, I'm not on camera. Wolverine is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't
But can you watch that show and hear your voice and it's okay, or are you still hypercritical? Can you watch an animated show where you've done the voice?
Yeah.
And it's okay, or are you still hypercritical of how you did the voice?
I'm always critical, but I wouldn't let it go at all. Like if I wasn't happy with my take in the studio. Yeah, so it was it was wonderful to see the words coming out of his yap.
Okay.
When they do the whole thing, it was just wonderful. I just loved it.
So you're able to watch a cartoon.
But I know what you're saying. So if I watch the animation, because I don't know how they're going to animate it, so I'm seeing it for the first time when you see it.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, I wish I'd known he was going to do that.
Right.
That action or whatever.
Yeah.
I would have read it differently, but that's not my fault then. That's the voice director, who's directing me. They tell you, this is what's happening, Cal, and be a little angrier here and stuff like that.
Right.
Which they do. So it wouldn't necessarily be my fault, but I would let him know. I said, I wish you told me that he was going to move like that,
Yeah.
But for the most part, I just love taken aback to just seeing him on camera.
Oh, you do? Okay, all right. Yeah. So it is different than watching yourself live.
Oh, yeah.
It's like singing.
Oh, hugely.
You don't want to see that.
Oh, yeah,
but
I can't
you don't
watch
mind
myself
watching
live.
a cartoon that you've done the voice for.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I can't watch myself live.
Wow.
Even if it's a song that I'm really comfortable singing and stuff, I can't.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's weird watching me.
Yeah. And do you think that's true in the entire, do you think Tony Bennett was the same way?
Oh, no, I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
You don't know if that's true of the whole industry?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you've mentioned Irish music several times. I was just wondering if there are any particular songs that you especially remember singing. And also, I was wondering, since you said there were 4 of you in the family, 4 children.
Yeah, there were 5, but Sean was born blind and deaf from birth, and so he obviously couldn't sing.
And did you work out harmony parts, or did your parents teach you harmony?
For 1 girl and 3 boys. Mm-hmm. The 3 of us, 3 boys and Fiona.
And are there any particular songs that you remember that you especially liked, or at least sang a lot?
Of the Irish songs, you mean?
Of the Irish, yeah.
Well, we all had our own solos in that thing. Mine were Mush 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 Churlayadi. Rory's was Paddy McGinty's Goat. Mm-hmm. Fiona's was Let 'Em Go, Let 'Em Tarry.
I know.
And I sang, of course, we all sang Oh Danny Boy.
Oh Danny Boy, yeah.
And we had to.
That has a really wide range. Was that hard for you at all, the Danny Boy, or?
Pardon?
Danny Boy has a really wide range of notes. Was that hard for you, or just come naturally?
No, nothing's hard for me.
Okay.
No. When it comes to singing, nothing. Mm-hmm. Because I have a 3.5 to 4, sometimes depending on if this cough thing's gone, 3.5 octave range.
Wow.
So when I was doing my jingle singing, I was always the bottom guy and the top guy. And I have an unbelievable falsetto. So, Danny Boy, my mother was the most brilliant singer I had ever heard. Well, and she spent so many hours with me at the piano doing the, which I hated. But,
Are there any recordings of your family band?
Just on tape, just on old tape.
Oh, nothing commercially available?
Pardon?
Nothing commercially available that we could buy?
No.
No. Oh. Okay, I would love to hear it.
And of course, Galway Bay, because they'll all come back to me once you sit down,
Yeah.
They'll all come in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If you could pick your favorite job that you've done over your career, or your favorite voice work that you've done, and you can't pick Wolverine, what would it be?
And I can't take Wolverine?
Yes.
It might be. I did a rock opera based on Shakespeare's Hamlet, which ended up on Broadway. And the title was changed to Rockabye Hamlet. Leave it to New York. Our version was done in Charlottetown for 2 seasons. It was Kronberg 1582, which was the castle where Hamlet, where it all took place. And I was Hamlet. It was written for me. And Rory, my brother, I got him his first job ever. He was working in the beer store in my hometown of 3,000 people. And he was working in the beer store, and I have a story about that. And so I got him the job. Remember the beer store thing, and my brother.
I noted it.
And I got Rory the job, so we both were in the thing. He was Horatio, Hamlet's best friend, and we went to the theater, and we had never been in a theater. Well, we had done Music Man when Rory was about 8 or whatever, and I was about 11, something like that. But that's the only theater experience. Well, this was an eye-opener, this whole thing, with the dancers and it was just nonsense, and fell in love with the whole thing, but because the music in this opera was brilliant, and it was like rock stuff, like whatever modern stuff, and it went to New York. So Rory stayed with it. I went to New York and recorded the album with Deja Vu. Was the name of our group, Deja Vu, which the group we ended up touring with Joe Cocker with, and we were recording our album. Rory was in the show in New York in previews. And Liz Taylor and Richard Burton were regulars almost every night. They loved the show so much. But in that show was Meatloaf, who wasn't Meatloaf yet. That was his nickname, but he hadn't started the rock group Meatloaf. And Rory and he got along well, and Jim Steinman wrote that whole Meatloaf album. And Rory did all the demos for Meatloaf, and whoever Steinman was writing for, Rory sang all the demos for him. No, with the Irish tenor and soft tenor voice that he had and stuff. Excuse me. And he went on tour with Meatloaf, and the opening night, the show in New York closed. Clive Barnes didn't like it, and if Clive Barnes doesn't like it, then it just closes. So it was pretty sad. So Rory and Meatloaf got together, and they formed Meatloaf, and away they went for 5 years or whatever it was. And Rory toured the world with them. Was on Saturday Night Live with them, what was he? What were you? Was I going to?
Rory with the beer store. Beer store.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So Rory's. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ethan. Rory, Mom and I are at home, and Rory is on. So one night it's like 2 a.m. He's been doing demos with Jim Steinman, God bless his soul, and Meatloaf. They're both gone, and Jim turns to Rory and called him. Rory's nickname was Ice because he's from Canada. Ice. So they said, "Hey, Ice, can you do this demo for me? Like I'm just this background part on this song. I'm doing a song here for Bonnie." He said, Rory said, "What's it for?" He said, "For Bonnie Tyler." He said, "Oh, geez." He said, it'll take. He said, "It's 2 o'clock in the morning, Jim." He said, "It'll take you 15 minutes." So he did it. So he said, "Sure," and he did it, and he went home. And about 9-10 months later, he was on the Grammys with Bonnie Tyler, singing the record of the year, which, as this record turned out, I'm at home, so of course the record is Total Eclipse of the Heart. Turn around, right. That stuff. That's Rory, my little brother. So we're at my mom's name is Maureen. Anyway, we're at home in Port Dover, and our house happened to be across from the beer store. No, not a lie. There's only 3,000 people in this town on Lake Erie, and so I'm home with Mom watching. So Rory's on the Grammys. So I'm sitting in the living room with her and watching this, and Mom's looking at him, and she said there was 50 steps up to the top. They were shooting, and Rory got to know the crew, so they said, "We'll open on you, Rory." So the first line of the song is "Turn around," right? And then they start from the back. Every now and then I get a little bit lonesome and I turn around. Back to Rory, and eventually Mom said, "He said, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, they're not going to make him walk down those stairs." He said, because he walked like a lummox, like just not like a dancer who would walk down the way they're supposed to walk down. Jesus, I said, I doubt it, Mom. There's like 50 of them. Well, I was proven wrong because she said, "Oh, Jesus, here he comes. He's coming down the stairs." Like she was so Irish, she still did the Irish accent. I said, "Well, at least watch him." She said, "I can't watch him. He's going to fall. For F's sakes. For God's sakes, quit." "Is he down yet?" "Yes, he's down, Mom. You can look again." So anyway, he got down. And he sings with her for about 30 seconds, and then he just gets off the thing. But I'm sorry, that the other story was before. So Rory's on Saturday Night Live with Meatloaf. With the very first time, they're doing 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Rory said, "I'll do this, Mom." So he's on camp, but background singer, so you'll know it's my way to say hello to you. Oh my God! So he does that, and after they do one song, and then there's a break, and then they come back for the second half of Saturday Night Live to sing another song. and Meat was known to be a bit of some stuff that he was doing to keep his energy up. And mom's just looking at she gets on the phone rings, and it's Rory from Saturday Night Live. It's a live show. Rory's what he said, and I knew who it was. And all I could hear is Mom's side of the conversation, and she said in the inimitable Irish accent, "What in the name of God are you doing with that fat person?" That wasn't her words, wasn't person, but "What are you doing with that fat?" And then I heard nothing because, of course, she's on. "You'd be better off back here at the beer store." With Mom, it's Meatloaf, for God's sake. And they were just starting to take off. That's their first hit. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And so, it was huge. But that's my story about that. But, yeah, I forget the question now totally.
I think it was what work you liked after Wolverine. We were talking about Hamlet.
Oh, yeah, it was, Hamlet and anything to do with music, because I didn't have any other things I would like.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
So I've been doing voice acting on and off for over 20 years. And if you don't mind me asking a question about voice acting, I recently did private lessons with a prominent voice actor in this area.
Private lessons?
Private lessons with a voice actor in this area, in the DC area. And they were virtual, so I was sitting down. So every time he would ask me to read, for me, I have to stand up and kind of make myself bigger. So my question for you is, at this point in your career as a voice actor, and you've done commercials and you've done, you have a big, depth of things that you've done. Mm-hmm. When you read, are you able to kind of sit and read, or is it still a full body experience for you to read when you're doing any kind of voice work?
Definitely standing up.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But I remember when I first went in, because singers, of course, are always standing up. And when I went in, a lot of the voiceover guys would be sitting down at a table doing their read, sitting down. But not for an animated thing, because, especially Wolverine, because he's constantly punching things.
Right.
And it's hard to do that when you're sitting down. Yes, and I would never do it sitting down, not that stuff.
Yeah.
And I have done a lot of other, it's all standing up. I never sat down, I don't think, for anything.
Yeah.
Except this.
So even for commercial work, it's a full body experience trying to. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank
For
you
sure.
so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the free advice.
Touching on that, have you ever actually seen the video they have video from when Hugh Jackman was doing the ADR for Logan?
Doing what?
The ADR for Logan,
Yeah.
his last
the
Wolverine
last movie?
Yeah, and he's also, to get into it, they have him on like a treadmill, and he's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like doing the arm movements and everything for everything.
yeah.
So just true to the character, you
Yeah,
kind of
to
have
do that.
be.
To do that, you have to do
you
that
have to be-
to get the actual effort that you're putting into like running or like like the punching and.
Wolverine wouldn't be delivering his line standing down. Wouldn't be appropriate.
Speaking of Hugh Jackman, did you meet Hugh Jackman ever when he was doing any kind of work for his rendition of the Wolverine?
Did I? Sorry.
Did you ever meet with him or
Oh, I met him.
exchange notes or anything, like give guidance or anything?
Oh, I met him. Oh, I met him. And it was in Toronto. He was in Toronto to shoot the movie, the very first one, the year 2000. And they wanted the two Wolverines to meet. He had been told by the director, please listen as much as you can to Cal Dodd's Wolverine from our series. He said, because that's the only reference anyone has had, because it's the only Wolverine voice that people have been listening to for 5 years. It's the only reference in their head. And it would be nice if you could get somewhere near that or whatever. So when we met, we were just standing there and in a wine and cheese party, and he walked up with this gentleman and introduced me, said, this is Hugh, this is our Wolverine, the original Wolverine from the series, and Cal, this is Hugh Jackman, he's going to be I said, oh, I know. Our Wolverine, first time ever, and he's nervous as all get out. Training, nothing but hard work training, and they called him a ninja because even the trainers that were training him said, we can't keep up to him. He goes on for 4 hours after we've been going 6 hours with him. So he was just adamant about. But he just, look, I said, nice to meet you, Hugh. And he said, it's a pleasure to meet you too, mate, but I'm sick and tired of listening to your voice. I went, I beg your pardon? I'm sick and tired of listening to your voice. He said, I got a lot of work to do with getting the part done properly, with the actions and my acting chops and stuff, let alone getting your voice. He said, but I'm trying to get there. But he said, yeah. I said, you're sick and tired? He said, yeah, that's what I said, mate. I'm sick and tired of listening to your voice. And he's sort of smirking. And I said, well, okay. And so we kept on talking for a couple of minutes. And as he's leaving, so he said, well, a pleasure. We shook hands. And he turned around to walk away. So in Wolverine's voice, I just said, hey, you. And he turned around and said, yes, Cal. Don't mess this up, bub. Do not mess this up. He went, get out, mate. Great guy. And he gives me a shout out every time he's on his one-man show with this touring show that he was doing. Of course, the audience wanted to talk about X-Men and Wolverine and stuff. So he takes like 5 to 10 minutes, and at the end of it, he always says, and a big shout out to the original Wolverine, to Cal Dodd, for the voice that I could not really get. So I'm admirable, very nice. It was wonderful of him.
Right. Any other questions?
Uh-oh, it's her again.
I'm glad I left her impressing.
I know. Kidding.
So I'm wondering, were any characters that you did not do that in turn you would like to have tried, and how would you rank those characters?
So I was wondering if there's other characters that you haven't played that you would like to play, other roles that you would be interested in playing.
No, because I didn't watch anything but ours. No, I didn't. I never. I wasn't into any of that stuff. But until I did this.
Would you have been?
Like I didn't watch. Yeah. Well, okay. So I watched the Spider-Man for a bit.
Right.
Just to hear what's his name, Ted from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He played a big role in Spider-Man, the animated series. You're too young for Mary Tyler Moore with Ted Knight and the boss, their boss in that show. Played.
Was that Ed Asner?
Ed Asner, thank you.
Yes, because he's J. Jonah Jameson on Spider-Man the animated series,
So, I just watched that, and because Batman started at the same time, so I watched a couple of their episodes to see, and Kevin became a good friend, so I would watch that. Batman, but Batman would have been cool to voice, but that's about it.
And a follow-up, if you don't mind. I'm wondering if we talk about voice actors of the past, are there any of the ones that you would consider a personal inspiration for you, or also your opinion on some of the more legendary voice actors like Mel Blanc and such?
Oh, Mel Blanc's the king. I mean, that's it. That's it. I mean, he was just brilliant talent. It's astounding. Seeing him on the Johnny Carson show just blew my cookies. He would just do the voice, and he's sitting there, and he's doing like all these voices that you grew up with. Yosemite Sam, and stupid. So he's my hero, that guy.
Thank you.
Hi, Cal.
Hi.
So I was wondering what it was like doing the voiceovers for the video games like Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel Superheroes.
On the games, I have very little memory of those. So I would just sit there and go Berserker Barrage or whatever for hours, and I didn't know where's this game going, like what. And you go different directions and stuff, and I didn't know anything that they were. They piece it all together at the end. We don't ever see any of that stuff, how it's going together. To me, it was just like I don't understand. There's no plot. There's no one else but me in this thing. So I didn't dig it. Well, I wasn't a fan of it, but they're huge. But I just didn't. I have very little recollection. Berserker Barrage, and I don't even know what else I did in that thing.
So you did some work with Goosebumps? Mm-hmm. What was that like?
Very weird. Especially after I was still doing Wolverine. Yeah. And to go from this voice into what was I've been doing Wolverine too often today. I just went into the thing, and he said, "We'd like you to try this because we know you can do everything." And I went, "Oh, okay." And it was big. That was so much different from X-Men because it was like ADR work. And the line would come across the screen, and as soon as the line meets, that's when you would start saying your line. And you had to keep an eye on. We even do that. Well, I've done it for the new series on our show, and even that's weird. Watching Wolverine's mouth and having to put the line that they didn't animate to properly. That's why they call us back. But this whole thing was like just for the first time doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And you just had to, as soon as the line thing, you start reading and you have to read the script at the same time you're trying to keep an eye on his mouth,
Yeah.
And it wasn't very nice of you to dump you in the sewer like that, was it, Sarah?
Wow. That kind of a voice. It was just totally different from Wolverine, but it was still fun because everyone hated him. Like Slappy, yeah. Everyone was just not hating him, but just were freaked out. I do it at the golf course that I belong to in Toronto, and the bartender, she's 50 something, like 52, and her and her daughter loved watching it, but that sound freaked him out. She didn't know that I did the voice. And someone told me that she was a huge Slappy fan, so I hid behind the bar down below, and I did that line.
Wasn't very nice of you to dump me in the sewer like that, was it, Sarah? You said the words. You said the magic words. Lama, lama, loma, lama, ding dong. Whatever it was. Now you'll be my slave.
No, I won't be your slave.
Your parents don't even like you. Don't you get it yet?
And she was just freaking. She's like, "Where's that coming from?" And I stood up. And she went, "Don't ever do that." So it just freaked her out. So that's
awesome.
fun. But yeah, that was fun.
Do you ever have slip-ups where you're maybe saying a Wolverine line as Slappy, or you're doing Slappy and the little Wolverine comes out?
No.
Nothing like that.
No. Don't bring that up. Now I'm going to do that. Well, that's fun, but that's so odd because Jim Cunningham, who's the voice of Jim Cunningham,
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
And all that, yeah. Jimmy Cummings.
Jimmy Cummings.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did I say?
Cunningham.
What?
Cunningham.
Cummings. We were beside each other at in New York Comic-Con, and for like 5 days. It was a 5-day con, which I never heard of. But we were like this far apart for 5 days. So his wife, after we were all done, and we're in the bar in the hotel that we were staying at, said, would you mind doing this with Jim? I said, what? I said, he always does this. He picks out a character, so like you, that has an animated character that's really popular, and he switches lines. So he'll do a Wolverine line in Winnie the Pooh's voice, and you do a Winnie the Pooh line in Wolverine's voice. So I said, what? And she said, it'll only be 6 seconds. And I said, so we went over to a table in the bar, like a booth, and we're sitting there. I couldn't stop laughing once he did his line, because he had the first line, and he's doing Wolverine's. No, I did the first line, which is in Winnie the Pooh's voice. Is like, I'm not going to do it because I don't know what it is, but would you mind? Could I have a smackle of? Would you mind if I had a smackle of honey, please? A smackle of honey. It was what I was. So, I tried to do my best Winnie the Pooh. No, I did it as me. So I said, would you mind if I had a smackle of honey, Bob? I couldn't believe it. He said, I go where I wanna go. I go. And I just lost it. We had to do it 5 times. I couldn't stop. I go where I wanna go. I want to go. That's what he said. It was just hilarious. And it was on YouTube. It just went berserk. Like, it went viral.
Hi again. I was just wondering if you had any special strategies for getting through the pandemic and the lockdown, or how that affected, what work you were able to do at that time.
Okay, what?
I'm
sorry, it's
asking about the pandemic and if you had any strategies to getting through the lockdown and everything. The lockdown, 2020 pandemic.
Oh, getting through it?
Yeah.
Well, what I did was I started, as I told you, I started March 20th was when it formally started, and all the studios closed, and it was just, well, I guess that's that. Like for 2 years, there was no work. You definitely wouldn't walk up to a microphone and having someone there before you. So I had to figure out some way to keep this happening, like my voice. So I started posting songs with nice tracks that you can get off your phone and stuff that you pay for. And I just to keep people's spirits up and stuff. And it was like even Ireland. I had fans in Ireland, England, and U.S. Like from seeing friends I made at Comic-Cons like this who were following me and stuff. And I started posting songs, and it was mainly almost regularly 2, sometimes 3 songs. 2 mostly though. 2 per night, per day, from 4:30 till 6, and I would post 2 songs of all different genre types of music. Because just to keep this happening, I'm now at like 2,100 songs, 2,100 songs that I've posted since then in 3 years. I have a pile of lyrics this high. But
Can we find them on YouTube?
Pardon? No.
No.
No, Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook.
Facebook.
There
Okay.
Thousands, literally thousands of songs.
Okay. All right.
So and it's CALDODD, so you can ask me, whatever. Yeah.
Thank you.
You'd enjoy it, darling.
Thank you. Guten Morgen.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, real quick. So
Oh, I bet.
I promise. So you've done all kinds of singing, all genres. Would it be possible to sing in a Wolverine voice, or is that just not even?
I've thought about that so many times about doing
your throat.
Doing a Wolverine album.
Yeah.
Like covers. Wolverine does Dallas.
Lumberjack songs, right?
Like, oh my God. But I have no idea how that would even sound. And no, it would hurt too much.
Yeah.
It'd be like me when I used to do a great Satchmo, but that is so hard on the voice to sing. You're singing right from the wrong place. And it's like, Satchmo, it couldn't do that for a whole album. You could do it in like a line seconds at a time.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even imagine holding a note like with that voice. It's just weird because I did it at a con actually. I came out and sang. I had the track and everything on my Bluetooth speaker, and I sang live. And I said this would be Wolverine's theme song, and it's because I watched All by Myself. The name's gone of the artist that sang All by Myself, who used to be with the Raspberries. But I watched him record it in New York when we were there doing our album. When I was young, because he made, in order to get gravel in his voice, they gave him, they made him smoke a bit of a cigar and gave him some whiskey. So because when he starts off, it's Eric Carmen. Mm-hmm. Eric, because he plays the piano, but he's doing the vocal on his own. It's like, when I was young, I never needed anyone. But you can hear the gravel in his foot. Making love was just for fun, those days are gone. And I did that with a really nice track, and they just loved it. All by myself, don't want to be all by myself anymore. Too much Wolverine, but it would break up like that forever. And down in that low key, I don't know where you'd start to sing that song. So no.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it there. Thank you for coming out and talking to us. And
you're so welcome. Thank you. I love you guys to death. You're the best fans in the world. Thank you. Hi, this is Cal Dodd, and you are watching Fandom Spotlite, which is the best channel on YouTube named Fandom Spotlite. So, good job. Have fun and follow your fandom.